Right. Looks like we have Captain Rains here, but there he is.
Captain Dave.
What do you say,
Big
brother?
Dave.
Speaking.
Yeah. Hey, I don't think I've ever mentioned that story to Tim. Tim, that's a good one to start off with if you want. Oh,
I wish
Big
you would
Dave.
forget. I wish you would forget that story. I relive it every time you bring it up.
And I love it every time I bring it up.
Be my
Yeah,
guest, Charlie.
especially when I think about, I think Dave back when you had your that single wide on that land. Where was that, in Benton?
Yeah, that was at Benton.
Yeah, and come out in the morning, man, with the Hugh Hefner smoking jacket cracked just enough for the hamburger meat to stick out of your chest,
Yep.
with the hairdo slicked over or plowed over, and yeah, to have your cup of coffee. And I mean, just back then, I think back and I think, man, we were young and had the world by the nuts, in shape, still didn't have any gray
Yeah.
hairs yet. And look at us now, dude. I mean, things are sagging, going south that we never planned on, But yeah, Big Dave. Speaking.
I had my stepdad living with me for a little bit, and that did not work out well. He turned into a small time drug dealer. I had to kick him out. But the 3 months he was staying there, one Saturday morning, someone's beating on the door, like, very aggressively. And I thought, who the hell's up this early in the morning? And I opened the door, and there is a gorgeous blonde younger woman there. And I thought, I've never seen this person, but apparently word's gotten out, and they're just showing up at my door now. And she said, "Yeah, I'm here for Dave, and I've got my coffee in my hand. I'm dressed just like Charlie said." I said, "Speaking," all proud. She said, "No, I'm here for Big Dave." And I thought, who the fuck you talking about, Big Dave? I said, "Oh, you mean my stepdad?" And she said, "Yeah, Big Dave." I was like, "Well, shit. What? Yeah, I deflated quick. She was there for drugs, and I didn't know it was drugs at the time, but yeah, all proud. No, Big Dave. I thought, yeah, it's
Well,
Charlie
yeah,
loves
but
that story.
I think even funnier is to say that he said speaking, and when she says, "No, I mean Big Dave." Speaking, yeah. Like, you got the right one, baby. You don't need that guy in the house. Man, those I shouldn't say this, but those dopehead girls, man, they were some of the easier ones to get along with, and I'm trying to keep it somewhat G-rated, but I used to not have any problems with the ladies, but it's funny because I never considered myself a real decent looking fella or anything, and
I didn't
there were
either.
sometimes that Dave would be like, "Man, when we go out to a bar or go somewhere and there's a bunch of good looking gals," he says, "half the shit that you say, Charlie, they would slap me in the face for." He says, "I don't know how you do it." And I said, "I don't either, because I ain't that good looking of a son bitch. I just kill him with kindness and charisma,
Kindness and credit. That's what you're sticking with here, and I tend to agree. But we were at that sports bar in Cape, and the two gals you were talking to looks like they were there on their lunch hour, and I don't know how long you had been chatting this gal up, but she was just not accepting your charm, and she was complaining about her job and whatnot. And you said, I've got the perfect job for you. She said, "What's that?" I said, "You can be the CEO," or you said, "You can be the CEO of the Charles Kulage Foreskin Toy Company." I laughed so hard I literally fell out of the stool, and it took her a minute to catch on what you were saying, but I guess you were finally annoyed with her negativity.
Figure, why not, man? It's like Eddie Murphy said that one time about Michael Jackson. He's like, "I'll go up to Al's and I might get slapped 9 out of 10 times, but that one that says yes, I'm like, woohoo, dancing on the ceiling, buddy." Hey, around that time too, Timmy, I don't think I've ever shared this with you, that I often say, especially now in recovery, to some of the younger folks that are and I guess you'd say in deep water with the legal system, possibly from DWIs, or say they got so desperate to a point where they were stealing things and whatnot, that they've been incarcerated. A lot of folks have, and some of them, because of that, have sought treatment because they're kind of forced to. But then also, um, I just always use the word yet. I hadn't gotten caught in yet, but throughout my career, especially when I just got my license, man, I hadn't had it long. That me and Dave and Jason, we were down in Cape, and Jason and Dave had, I think either way, they both had these big brand new Ford trucks because they're Ford guys, and I had my little bitty
Still
piece
are.
of shit Nissan. I was leasing it, and
You
we
said
were at
take
the
my
bar
keys in
getting,
case I do something stupid.
yeah, man. And I mean, I knock on wood, I had never gotten in trouble, but I very could have real easily that
Don't know
night. And you
how you
talk about
didn't.
me being a dumbass. I was, man. And luckily, Dave actually he sideswiped me in the face, man, with a good old lick. He punched me in the jaw as I was at a damn a drive-through thing ordering my food.
You had a
And he's like,
hidden key.
yeah, here, I'm gonna let him tell it.
Yeah. Charlie said, take my keys. I don't want, he just got his license, didn't want to risk a DUI. And we were bar hopping, and that section of Cape, man, there was like 5 bars around there. You could just, and at one point, I think that was the night you passed out by the front door and people actually walking on you to get in. I don't. And someone said, hey, I think your friend passed out by the front door. And by the time we made it, because that was packed. It was a Saturday night. Because I think you got in trouble. You tried to play drums with the band and got in trouble then too. And
let me sit in a spell.
Right. And lo and behold, by the time you had a spare key. You had a spare key in your wallet, and we see you barreling down. I don't know how you didn't get a speeding ticket. It is you done hopped in your truck and was speeding away, so we flagged you down, and I had to cut you off in the parking lot. You cut into that McDonald's parking lot so fast.
Well, no, wait. I actually see, and here's what had happened, Dave. If you remember right, it was a Saturday. We had started drinking at like noon.
And you.
And man, I remember it was dark and it was drizzling. And I think at that point in time, or it might even still be now, I don't know, but it was like 25-mile-an-hour speed zone where we were at. And like Dave said, I gave him my keys, but I always had one that I kept hidden in case I ever locked myself out. So I go to my truck and I get in it, and I'm driving on this 25-mile-an-hour zone. I'm going about 45, and it's drizzling because I have my wipers on, and I get pulled over. And the cop let me go. You remember that, Dave? He let me go. He says, I'm not gonna let you drive from here, but I guess there's maybe some kind of like federal database or something back then. I don't know that they had that. He had checked my license, and he says, did you just get some sort of certificate or license? And I said, yeah. I said, within the last year, I've gotten my river pilot's license to pilot the Mississippi. And he says, I don't want your career to get ruined over something like this. But I would have been, let's see, because I got my license so I would have been right at 22, 23 years old when this happened. And the cop was so cool that he says, I'm going to go ahead and let you go, but we're going to go to the station, and I'll let you go from there, and just leave your vehicle, type of thing. And I did, and he followed me, or I followed him. I can't remember, but I parked my damn vehicle, and the cop says, ride with me, and that's no more driving tonight. I said, okay. I got back in my vehicle, and that's when Dave and Jason saw me driving, and they had seen the cop let me go. And that, you remember that, Dave?
Yeah, I do now. I forgot that detail. I just remember I had to wrestle the damn key from you. You weren't giving it up. Even after the second time got let go, you were laughing about it. I mean, maniacally. So Charlie, give me your key. And no, it was kept talking about getting a Big Mac, and at midnight it was just this. It was didn't. I mean,
Well, yeah,
I
I
don't
was
know.
getting ready to order something, and I was in neutral. It was a stick shift. I was in neutral. I just had my foot on the brake, on the regular stopping brake, not the parking brake. And man, I was getting ready to order, and I'm looking up at that, the menu on it, and all of a sudden I feel this, and I was like, "Oh, what the?" And I look over, and it was Dave, and he's like, "You dumbass!" He goes, "Get over or get out. I'm driving." And Jason was right behind us in Dave's truck. And David was letting Jason drive his truck so Dave could get my truck and get me out of there. But yeah, man, you talk about stupid. If somebody
Yeah,
ever asked me what the dumbest point of that thing in my life that I had done, it would be that. For a cop to let me go and then for me to go right back and get in it once the cop went inside and leave, that was pretty ballsy, dude. I shouldn't have done that shit.
it's. I was telling Tim. We talked the other day on no matter where I've lived in the country, you always have come by to visit. Yeah, our homes have changed over the years. Uh,
Just as our women's have.
right. Thankfully, the quality has increased on both. I guess I don't know. I mean, I kind of give up on successful marriage and just sticking with good friendships. But the do you still talk to Stacy much, or is she pretty much done now? The child sport's over. Has no reason to talk to you.
No, she is actually besides Charlie and his wife, Stacy has been the only other person that I've communicated with since I went into inpatient recovery, and she's been very supportive. Actually, last Saturday, a week ago today, we had already had a plan that she said she wanted to catch up. That um, I went to her condo and picked her up because I needed to swing by my place and get a couple of things. I don't go to my house very often because, for one thing, I won't go there alone right now, just for some reasons that I'll save for later. But anyway, she went with me, and I spent like a whole whopping 10 minutes. Got me some more laundry soap. Got my tie clips I needed for this upcoming gala tomorrow, and then we went. Yeah, we had a big old breakfast, is what we had, and it just so happens that by the time we got done, Dave, it was like I had, I think, 4 hours before I had to be at a Saturday recovery meeting that I go to every week. That I asked her, I said, instead of me driving all the way back to my joint down the city and then driving all the way back, can I crash in your place for a few hours to take a nap? And she said, yeah, just crash in my back bedroom. Because lately, if I don't have a nap in the afternoons, um, it really is, I guess you'd say, tough on my body, tough on me, to where it's hard for me to catch up at all the next day. So she let me crash here for like 4 hours. I got up. My meeting was 10 minutes away at that point, which was great because it was nowhere near where I'm at here in housing in the hood, because that's where I'm at now. There's a damn gated lot for us in the back, if that tells you what kind of neighborhood it is.
Gotcha. Well, let me butt in here. Charlie, we were talking before David hopped on here. Please tell him the recent milestone.
Oh yeah, which
You're,
which
you're
he
cool.
does know. I
Okay.
I texted him yesterday that, yeah, yesterday for me was 5 months, and that
Hmm.
I've been clean and sober. But I was telling Timmy a few minutes ago that they say from the 6th to the 12th month is kind of when 60 something percent, 63% fall off, because most insurance and stuff stops. Then most people at that point start saying, oh, I've got this. Oh, I got this. And they fall off of treatment completely, that they go back and they relapse between the 6 and 12 month mark. So me knowing that and me knowing myself, I'm gonna stay in sober living where I'm at here and just keep going to meetings every day, keep going to outpatient treatment every day, because for right now, for me, that's my medicine, you know. For so many years I self-medicated that's how I dealt with things, to numb, I guess you'd say, and to suppress them and push them down. That there's a lot that has happened in these last 5 months that when I start to feel something or something comes into my mind that really starts to either bother me or make me confused, like, why am I just now feeling this shit after all these years? That I can only just assume from what the docs have been telling me and other people in recovery is those are traumatic events, I guess, as they say, trauma coming out of my system. But the more important thing is there are things I haven't dealt with in the past without using. So, like, for example, I went to my first wake a couple of weeks ago, someone dying while I'm clean and sober. You know, me, usually the Kulages, man, we got like a trunk full of beer and a bunch of weed. We go out, you know, and hey, yeah, he was a good guy, you know, and just chunking her down the parking lot usually. Well, to go through something like like that sober and clean is kind of, those things are difficult for me right now. But anyway, me knowing that from that 6 to 12 month mark, that's why I'm just going to stay both feet in, because now recovery is my medicine. That's how I'm self-medicating. Sure, the docs got me on a couple of antidepressant
I'm just
jobbers or
gonna
whatever.
ask if you was if you'd had to, because you know what it does to your brain on the, if you had to be on some kind of antidepressants on the, helps the, you know, do you ever feel like your brain is literally shaking inside? It's jittery.
Yeah.
It's hard to deal with the anxiety on the, you know.
Yeah, I'm on about a handful of them, and and the reason, I guess, is because when I first went into inpatient treatment, these were things that were suggested by the psychiatry staff within the inpatient that, hey, you know, we need to either up your dose of this, start you on that, you know, whatever. That I would just put, I guess you'd say, just blindly putting, you know, my faith in their hands, because they're the professionals and I'm not. And I've been using my whole damn life. So I'm on some now. I'm on quite a few actually. But what I think in my mind and in my heart is those help. Sure, it's a tool and it's going to help rewire my brain, I hope. But I think that the biggest medicine that I get is by living in recovery, because sometimes I wake up in the morning and be like, shit, I got to get up and go to outpatients, you know. So I get up and brush my tooth, scrub the ballroom, and it just, you know, kind of just like, wow, man, this sucks. But then once I go and towards the end of the day, I feel like I'm walking a little taller, you know, and I'm glad that I went, because that for me, that therapy in there is more medicine than any doctor could ever prescribe me. So I need to stay in that treatment just as much during the next 6 months as I have the first five, you know?
I have a couple questions there, CK.
Yeah,
Well,
shoot.
one statement and a couple questions. Statement, and then because you know, a lot of people call and ask me about you. Some I give details, some I just give broad strokes, and
And give him the
I've
genuine
never.
David Rains finger. Sit and spin. Or hey,
This is
read between the lines, will you?
this is I don't lead with anger anymore. No,
That's
I've
surprising. I'm proud of you, buddy. You arrogant son of a bitch. I love you, man.
that
I'm
is
so glad.
it's been after that second divorce, man. I was like, you know, this is, you know, I got a great relationship with the kids, and but you know, just yeah, I got tired of you know, I don't know, life just too long on the leading with anger so much on the, it just, the
It'll wear
things you
you
want to,
out.
the things that you want to communicate to people, and then out here is a big adjustment on, you know what it's like being front watch. It was a huge adjustment, but there are effective methods without just leading with anger, and wanting to teach somebody, actually teach them instead of just telling them to do it because you're barking orders is I guess that's where a real teacher is. But yeah, I look back and it's just a different person. It just just want to be better, and it's better mentally for me to not live that way anymore. On the I don't know, just be more social and be less angry at the. But like you, on there comes a point where that's one of the things I wanted to ask you on the man, when life starts slowing down, like all the stuff you've accumulated it from your past catches up.
Yeah.
And then you're forced to deal with it, either self-medicate or get therapy, or and not just you. I've talked to, you mentioned Jason. I've talked to a lot of our friends on the around the time kids start growing up, the past starts catching up with men, and some ignore it, some just keep drinking, but and the ones that deal with it, yeah, usually there's a lot to deal with. You've had a lot to deal with. I don't know. I it's not just because I love you. I just don't. I don't think of you as an addict. We mentioned my stepdad earlier. He was full blown addict. I mean, he couldn't no aspect of his life, and he still is today. He can't. It rules over everything. Makes him violent, and run-ins with the law. I can't hold a job. To me, that's what an addict truly is. It takes precedence over everything. Being a parent, coworker, that wasn't you. I just I am so glad you're getting help, but none of us ever see you as what we call a traditional addict.
Right.
You did the work. You have a success. You were responsible your whole life. So you were a very rare case on that. So you mentioned I don't know, it's a couple years ago we were talking, and you was pretty down on yourself. And I just wanted you to get that across. No one labels Charlie Kulage as an addict. This is not one of them. I don't know if that's one of the things you thought of, but no one sees you. I don't either. You're not an addict, even though you are addicted to and use this for coping. It never owned you in the sense where it got in the way of you being a parent. And you may have used out here, but there's a reason no one noticed, because you were still doing, you weren't just getting by, you were doing a good job. You cared about your job. I know I'm not articulating this as well as what I want, but so I hope I'm getting the point across.
No, man, no, I get exactly what you're saying. And I think that especially now, what I'm learning, and like I was an inpatient with about 70 other people roughly. And out of those 70, I mean, you've got everything from folks who literally came in there homeless with the clothes that they were wearing in mid-November, wearing flip-flops and a pair of shorts that they stole out of a dumpster and a t-shirt. That's all they had and of course there's anonymity involved here, all the way to professional sports players that make millions each year, right? Who have a family and in a big house with the picket fence and a dog in the yard named Bosco. And you would think, wow, but what happened to me, which the same thing happens to, I think, everyone from the homelessness all the way up to the professional who has kept their job, let's say, is I was functioning, and like you say, I was functioning for all those years, like when Charlie was growing up, in a fashion that I was actually self-medicating legally. So on my days off, I was drinking, of course, but
right.
But the other thing, and I mean, something that I guess a lot of people really didn't know within the company, and I just never shared it because it wasn't really relevant, was I was on some medicines, 2 antidepressants, opioids, and Xanax, which is anti-anxiety. I was on those 4 for quite a few years, man. And I think that kept me on an even keel. And then in 2018, I don't know if you remember, but that's in June of that year is when they came out with the subchapter M rules and shit. We already knew it coming up into it that I couldn't take those anymore. Or if I did, you couldn't take them and go to work and operate on your license type of thing. Well, I gave them all up. And what I didn't know was when I gave them up, them pharmaceuticals, was how much they were helping me until I got off of them. So functionally, I think that what helped me in the long run was, yeah, I dabbled with hard drugs, especially before Charlie was born. After he was born, there were maybe, I'm going to say maybe, no more than a handful of times that I played with fire, so to speak. I rolled the dice and maybe I would go out on, say, like a weekend and get a big 8 ball of cocaine or something and you know, whatever. But I stayed functioning throughout his childhood. And those medicines over the years, the Lexapro and the Xanax and the Effexor, that they kind of leveled me out. So when I stopped taking those and I started getting these goddamn nightmares from the Persian Gulf in late 2018, that's when I started questioning, what is this all about? You know? And I thought, well, this will be temporary, but it wasn't. And when it started messing with my sleep schedule on the boat, as you know, we don't get a whole lot of sleep in one damn period. That's when on my days off, I started dabbling with methamphetamine just to try to help me cope with getting shit done during the day. So the long story short on that is what I would say that the spiral, once it started, I kept you in the loop. But what became and what I think what defines an addict, to lead all the way up to what you were saying about not really considering me an addict, which I appreciate. I mean, I appreciate what you're saying because I understand what you mean, that people out on the river, even though I'm not there anymore, they never considered me an addict because I was doing my job and doing it to the best of my ability with no problems, no legal problems, and I wasn't ever angry or unkind to someone. But what happened within my own life and why I resigned from ACBL when I did is because at that point my life had become unmanageable. And that's what I guess you'd say where addiction really speaks to someone who wants to get in recovery, is when your life has become unmanageable. Well, for some people that is losing your job, being angry and beating the hell out of someone, going to jail. And it looks like that in some cases. In some cases, it looks like a guy who wears a suit and tie every day to work, who maybe just drinks as soon as he leaves work, and then on his way home downs a whole bunch of booze and then hides his bottle somewhere, or puts them into trash at a mobile gas station because they go home and they don't want their family to know. But they're still doing that. The chances of them getting in trouble are there, but they're still functioning. But I think that when it starts to affect someone's life and their livelihood, like for me, you know, they say, oh, I lost my job to drugs. Oh, I lost my retirement. I lost my house. You don't lose that shit. You give it up, man. You give it up for drugs because that's, it becomes, or it became for me,
Right.
my only way of survival, man.
You know, this was a slow process. You know, you and I have talked not this in depth, but you are too self-aware and intelligent to be talked out of any current path until you decide to change it. You are, like I said, and that's admirable. I love your self-awareness. That's also, you know, some people can be talked into, you know, and saying, you know, when they're right before their life really veers to the left. And remember when you were still with Shirley and talking about all this, and you just weren't ready to get help yet. But it was heavily suggested, and you know, by lots of people. But that's one thing I love about you, and it's like no one can talk you into stuff. You're the only person that can do that.
Right. Well, but you know, and something else, Dave, that I think where I really, especially like you, my buddy Dave Santana out on the West Coast,
Yeah.
and just a couple of more select others, that I guess you'd say, I was self-aware, even though I was addicted and still active addiction, I was high. I was self-aware that I stopped communicating with you guys more and more and more. That what happened to me was the first, I resigned in January 2020. For those first couple years, um, I mean, physically, I was still able to do the things that guys got to do, throw in the headphones, go out and work up a good sweat, mow my lawn, do some trimming, some weed eating, whatever, sweeping, cleaning my
Yeah,
house.
you rode your bike to come see me in 2020 or 2021.
That was at the tail end of 2020. That was in October 2020. That was your birthday month, you bastard. Yeah, that's right. 2020, October. Because I came to see you, and then
I just got
then I
just
left
got
and I
that
went
house. Yeah.
and then I left and I saw Brian Hamilton over in Eastern Kentucky. I was gone for like 6 weeks. That was the 1 year mark when I had my motorcycle wreck. So I was still functioning and I was still able to do things then. But what wound up happening physically and mentally was I became isolated to the point where I didn't leave my house at all. Not for grocery shopping, not to go to a drugstore, nothing, unless it was to go to a doctor's appointment.
But
And
that was right after your mom, though, right?
right. And it was right before my mom is when I found a therapist, the one I have now currently. His name's Dan, great guy. But I found him because even though I wasn't ready to quit yet, I did know I needed help in some direction. I thought if I do nothing, nothing's going to change. So I got a hold of him. And then it just so happens the thing with my mom happened that we became pretty close, Dan and I, going through the steps. So here's what happened was 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, in the very early part of 23, I feel like in my heart that's when I surrendered. And there's a difference between surrendering and giving up within the addiction community. That I surrendered saying, hey man, I know I need help. I know I need to change my life. I know I need to get off the dope. And I was willing to. I wanted to. I was miserable. I became miserable at that point. Staying in my house alone. Yeah, I was safe, but that's unhealthy, man. Unhealthy. So when I went to go looking for it, and I wound up starting to experience what I didn't think existed, was stigmatized behavior from the medical industry. I thought, what the hell are wrong with these people? I thought to myself, what are we, five? What are we, back in the 1960s where they just do a lobotomy and say, hey, see you later? No, man. I mean, I thought
And this
people
stigmatized about addicts in general.
right
Yeah.
from the medical field, that anytime I would go to get help, so to speak, it was, oh, you're fine. That's just the drugs talking. Oh, you're okay. That's just the drugs talking. Or, your insurance only covers an IOP, which is an intensive outpatient. Okay. So I did that. I paid my own money out of pocket to do these things with the eggs nest that I've been saving for my entire goddamn life, man. And when I no longer had insurance because they didn't pay the hospital stay, and I dropped them because of that, I figured, why am I paying $680 a month for Obamacare for an insurance company who's not going to pay the goddamn hospital bill? So I dropped them, and I went that period of time that when July, Dave, of last year, July 3rd until November 16th, I had no longer surrendered. At this point, I gave up. I was just waiting to die.
I remember that.
Because I felt like I am really hopeless. I have no entity willing to help me.
When you would leave those messages, I mean, I thought, man, Charlie's saying goodbye, and it was trying to get a hold of you on that was some scary times, and I
I
started
really
calling you.
was, and in my mind, that's what it was, Dave. It was the end because I had no hope, man. Unemployed, no health insurance, knocking on 50's back door. I thought, man, I'm fucked. But then I became disabled according to the Veterans Administration, which I'm super grateful for. But by doing that and getting becoming disabled, that gave me it opened up some doors of treatment options. And man, when I got to looking at which ones were available to me, I did my homework, buddy. I'm not some big dumbass that they thought I was. And I scoured through these like 7 or 8 treatment centers that I was eligible to go to. And I went for the 5-star treatment, baby. I went for the ones that have like
Happy
a 4,
ending.
yeah, like a 4.8 out of 5 stars, because I looked at some of these treatment centers with like a 1.8 or 2.1 stars out of 5. There's a reason for that shit. And this is who I picked. And once I walked through those doors, that's when I started getting a little of something that I hadn't had for a long time. And that was a little bit of hope, a little bit.
I was going to say something else.
Well, the frustrating thing, like I said, though, is when I felt like out of those 5 years, the first 3, I was still able to do the things I needed to do. That when you go looking for help and you're mistreated simply because you are honest and say, hey, doc, I need some help, but I do have methamphetamine in my system. I did that because I figured they would need to know, being in the medical field, in case they want to give me something that might interact with it. I didn't think that by being honest that would turn it against me to say, get out of our emergency room. You don't belong here. You're just a meth addict. Well, look at me now, man. I'm kind of broken down a little bit these days. And that's why I'm waiting to get some more tests ran by the VA. I'm seeing all these ologists right now. I went to a dermatologist who referred me to a rheumatologist who's referred me to a neurologist. And then I got an MRI scheduled on my left side because there's something going on in my left titty area that's not really kosher. You know what I'm saying, dog?
Oh, just pictured you describing it right here on my left titty. And just pointing to it.
Oh man, hey man, when I went into inpatient, matter of fact, and I guess I can say their names because they're professionals, but either way, 3 doctors, 1 a doc and 2 nurse practitioners, I mentioned about how, hey, I have this lump under my damn left rib cage, that the lead doctor, he's a foreign fella. He starts taking me into his office. Well, here, I'll take a quick look at it. I said, okay. Next thing you know, I got my shirt off in this small office with 3 people feeling me up. I was like, oh, does this come with a kiss too? That they were all looking to see my they were all looking to see my lump, but I was glad, man, because here it was the first time someone in a medical position was physically looking at this alien that's trying to grow out of my rib cage where no one else had before. Why not just treat me like a person? So that's why I'm super glad and I'm grateful for Sauna Lake Recovery, dude, because they have helped me tremendously. Inpatient, I'm living in their housing right now. As long as I go to outpatient 5 days a week, they waive my fees here, man. And I'm so grateful for that because I still have my own mortgage to pay, and that helps me, man. It gives me hope that maybe I can get better and not go broke and homeless.
You gonna Airbnb your place?
No, I'm not. Matter of fact, I have some other plans with it, but they're not the happiest. But
why is there no gray in your beard? What the hell?
Yeah, I know.
I got
Well,
gray everywhere.
actually, you know what that is the other day I was here in the apartment doing a little spray paint. I got some primer in there. That's what that is. I just couldn't get her combed out in time before this meeting with you fellas.
I mean, the beard is glorious. Well, not as glorious as Tim's. I mean, that thing's a work of art.
Well, when I went into inpatient, it was down to my titties, my damn beard was. And then on Thanksgiving, I was in treatment that there was this lady.
You say titty one more. I mean, try to work the word titty in 5 more times.
I can, sure. No problem there, pal.
Natalie has that iron shirt. Well, when we went out drinking on Patty's Day, oh no, hers just says
shenanigans begin here, baby.
I thought for sure there'd be an arrow pointing down, but right.
But yeah, I checked in and my whiskers were real long. They were about right down to my nips. And Thanksgiving came around. There was this gal sitting across from me, pretty good looking gal too. But you don't look for gals in recovery, I'm finding, which is fine. I don't need none. But
Yeah,
she says
that's
to me,
probably a red flag.
yeah, she says to me, she says, "Hey Charlie, why don't you let me trim up your beard?" And I said, "You know how to cut hair, woman?" And she says, "I cut my own hair." And I thought, man, she's got a good looking hairdo. So I said, why not? I'm open to it. So a couple days later, she whacked it off. And as we were sweeping it up, man, I felt like one of them damn, like a cancer deals, so like locks for love. I had some of them whiskers about that long. I thought, man, I could give them one of them kids with cancer. And I mentioned that to her, and she says,
I
I
don't
don't
know
know if
anyone doing locks of love for fucking beard whiskers. I mean, not even some cotton candy beard for a school play. Nobody's wanting, no one's doing locks of love for that. It looks too much like pubes.
that's what she said. She goes,
I just see
Charlie,
you
these are
showing
a
up with
little
a
more.
bag. Hey, I
These are a
shaved
little
these
more
in case
coarse than
somebody
what they're
wants
looking
them.
for cancer patients. That your hair is it's too thick and wiry, But I was just trying to be helpful. That's all. But yeah, that was on Thanksgiving, and now I'm growing it back out for a while.
You got, I can see you getting a good Viking look going on there.
Yeah. Arr.
So I've been pretty quiet over here.
Sorry, Tim.
No.
How's your week been, buddy?
Week's been great. Job's been busy. Spent the day outside cleaning up a bunch of stuff with the wife. Um, you know,
And the 4 furry fellas and gals.
2 of the 4 are on the bed right here in front of me.
Awesome.
Nice.
Indeed.
We should be able to have pets out here. We should. I would love to, refinish your the brass dang it, I forget the name. I don't know why I can't think of the name of it there, but your control
Engine
there.
order telegraph.
There you go.
EOT.
I have refinished some of the old brass running lights, the oil lamp. And it's just I love that
And
old
it
antique brass.
makes them shine nice. I saw Dave's polisher that day when I went to his house. I show up on my bike and he's out there with his polishing wheel and shit, just working on it, polishing the old knobs and stuff.
I gotta make it dirty.
But I'm sorry, Timmy. You were about to say something, you sexy bastard. What is it?
I was gonna check in with old Captain Dave here. Charlie, did I ever tell you when I first met David?
Now let me rub my brain cells together. I believe it was on the Donna Rushing and with AEP at that point still.
That is correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And how did you like it? Did you ride on there or just get on there for a couple hours?
I rode overnight. I got on, that was a few months. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just listening, and as you're saying, remembering on I enjoyed having you on there, and I hope that I was cordial on that, but I enjoyed having you on there. I just anytime someone from dispatcher gets on and asks as many questions as what you did on it's just enjoyable. Seeing your perspective and why things have to be the way they are. And I just don't understand why they don't get us together more during meetings on the wheelhouse and dispatch.
Right. Well, I do remember going through, and this is the first time I've ever been on an overnight towboat. We were going under, I believe, the GNO bridge, and I step outside to take pictures, and I'm yelling at you through the wind, and you're like, dude, I'm a little busy.
That's a busy spot.
Yeah. Well, I realized it kind of as I'm looking, I'm like, oh, we're under a bridge. Oh, he's a little tense. Okay, I'm gonna shut up. Just gonna mind my own business. But then I think,
If you ever see one of these. Yeah.
I sat in that wheelhouse until you kicked me out because you had to shit. And I did not understand the workings of a towboat. That was a hell of an introduction. And Charlie, you may know this, but there was a fucking lightsaber on the dash, and the dude's doing yoga, putting his.
May the 4th be with you. Yeah,
Indeed.
It's coming up
I
soon.
wasn't building. Why not? I showed you some sabers whenever you came to visit, didn't I?
Oh,
I've gotten
yeah.
out of that, but I was building them at the time. You know what? You
I've never
shut
even
your
watched Star
ass.
Wars in my whole life. I don't need to with Dave and my son around. I mean, this guy
Right.
would dress up
You're
as some kind of Star Wars character with his girls and go to the movies and see this shit.
CK2 appreciates it more than what you do. This
Right.
is I finally get, a calm hobby and you giving me the sideways looks. Right. I could pick up crabs from a, dirty who, and you're like, all right, Dave. I start building lightsabers. You look at me, what? What is this homosexual stuff there? Is this it makes no sense. So, yeah.
So, David, speaking of CK2, you were telling me the other day on a call, Charlie might appreciate. I believe CK2 got in a little trouble in grade school.
You remember, Charlie, when you were still married to Stacy, you guys came to visit. I lived in Texarkana at the time. And I think this was shortly after that. He had gotten in trouble with dang it, he videotaped himself dancing. Is it ringing any bells?
No, but I know the time period because yeah, your girls were young and so was Charlie. And I
Right.
kind of did that just to get away for a little while. And he was going to school year round. So we had like 3 weeks off. We went over to your place for a few days and spent like a week with you. But no, I don't remember what was on the video.
It made you look bad more than him, and it was pretty innocent, but he got you had just got you were showing me that digital camera you got that recorded. Because I remember when hanging out, I mean, you had no problem saying hang out with your wang out and talk. I mean, you talked to him like he was
One of us.
talking about that because obviously I don't speak like that around my girls. That's not a and you were very respectful. And matter of fact, he was making a Mother's Day card. No, but you and Stacy were, I don't know if you're getting divorced or about to. Anyway, he was having me make a Mother's Day card. We were talking about that, about, what's respectful and manners and this and that. And I said, you're talking about manners, but you're over here like, hey, hang out with your wang out. And we had a good laugh. And I didn't think about it anymore until you were telling me. It was you telling me the story or Stacy was, but he got a hold of your camera and you were having some party at your place. And there was another little kid there, a girl his age, and he was going around with that camera, videoing other people. Well, he went off alone with her, and he would ask her to dance. He's like, "What do you mean?" So he's like, "Just dance." And she apparently wasn't taking the hint or wasn't dancing. He was like, "What, like this?" And she held the camera while he got in there, and he was taking his shirt off, and he would just magic micing that shit. And
that's my boy.
And he was talking about, he said, hang out with your wang out. Obviously, he had no idea what he was saying, but he was repeating. And he had gotten in trouble because when the parents, found out about this video, they came to you and Stacy, and you had to have a talk with him. And I just remember laughing about that. Like, it wasn't months before you got burned saying that to him, but I never got to see the video of him, doing his moves.
Well, and something else that Charlie did really early on, listened to lots of different musics across the spectrum, was I always incorporated a lot of the older like Motown, like 60s and 70s music into his life that I used to stand up, and I do the whole feel good, and do the old hip thrust forward, and shake your hands.
We're all fully aware.
Charlie started doing that when he was about 4, I guess. But his way of doing it was kind of neat. He'd be like, "Hey, Dad, feel good, feel good." And he started doing this. I said, "Buddy, you can do that with Dad all night long. We can have a good time. Don't do it at school, though, pal, because you might get in trouble for something like that, especially with the hip thrust going forward, like you got some fine chick in front of you or something."
Those of us that know you well talk about how no matter where we're at, if you hear a tune somewhere, no matter how intense the conversation, you will pause, sing just a little bit, do that thrust, and then go back to conversation.
Oh, yeah. I still do, man. In the grocery stores now that I'm going back out in public. I was singing in one the other day with my housemate Steven. We were in Walgreens. He's waiting on his prescription. And I said, "Hey, Steve," I said, "the feminine hygiene products are over here," you know,
Right.
and he acted like he didn't even know me. But I go down the aisle, man, and Lionel Richie, "You are the sun, you are the rain." Next thing that you know, because I mean, we are down here in the urban environment, this young, dark skinned gal, man, fine looking. She looked over at me and started smiling and shit. I'm like, "Yeah, baby, I know I'm twice your age, but hey, it was fun, dude. I love hearing music in public,
Yes.
minus the L."
Been been doing trivia night once a week. When it gets to music, uh, Nat and Blake are usually with me, and they take over because I don't have the music knowledge of what you do. But I think about you. I was like, man, I wish Charlie was here on the just to rattle off because I don't know if you would stop singing. I have nightmares of you in karaoke because I mean I love you, brother, but no one is more confident than you sober singing, but they can't sing. Do you remember when Denise broke your heart and then you came and it was like a 4-day binge?
Yeah, it was pretty
You had the
rough. I was
mic,
in a rough
you had the
place.
mic for so long, but you would start singing, and whenever there was a music pause, you would break out in conversation. This is a shout out to everybody that ever had their heart broken by stinking whore, and then just go back to singing.
That sounds a little like me. I forgot all about that until just now.
So here's a good one. Tim, it's flood stage. It's mega flood stage here right now.
I was going to ask, remind me the vessel and where you are right now.
I'm on the Mark stop, and I'm here at Armstrong Bar, about 15 miles below Memphis. And I'm taking a point way I haven't got to take since 2011. I mean, the water was
I
up.
remember that time.
Yeah, it was but the water is it's a struggle to make just to make 3 mile an hour. It's a struggle. But yesterday or this morning, something happened that I've never seen or heard of. A Marquette boat backed in to do tow work at Helena. And when water's up this high, sometimes you stop at places you've never stopped at. And every place you do back in, you're right up against the trees.
Mm-hmm.
But the pilot was telling me this Marquette boat backed in. He did his tow work. But he's backed in on a left descending bank across from General Pillow. And he does his tow work. But before he can leave, a tree falls, a huge tree falls, lands on the second deck, right in between the stacks and the cabin. And we were doing tow work there also. And he said, can't believe I'm going to say this. And he called the tug, which the tug is the Big Daddy. He said, Big Daddy, he said,
or
he said,
no?
Said, Big Daddy, I need some people to come out here with some chainsaws. He said, and sure enough, I wish I couldn't really see it, but he talked about it for a while. And this is a massive tree stuck on the second deck, sticking over. Nobody can walk around it. I mean, huge safety issue. It just one of them things you never think could happen, but it did. And I just got like, man, do they send their own guys out or do they call the tree service? And what's that call going to be like? Hey, we need you to catch a boat, cut the tree off the deck here. I just had never seen that happen before.
Yeah, I hadn't either. There were some times that I've knocked out some floodlights and stuff from backing in. It's nighttime and you back in on a tree line that you think is a tree line because the water's so high and you bust out lights. But I didn't ever have one knock a tree over and land on the boat.
I caught a big tree with a 4-part lock line on Illinois River, and tornado come, and I never get to see the tornado, but it got up 70 mile an hour wind. It blew me across the river, but it ripped that tree right out of the ground, and we took it with us. They had to crawl underneath the limbs and stuff to cut the lock line to let the tree go. But
drag.
Right.
Yeah, man, I'm sitting here thinking about all kinds of things now when you say that. I remember coming down on the Doug Fisher with Capt and Kenny, right? And I was in that crossing over to Cherokee there above Chester Bridge, man. And I just looked out at the sky. I thought, man, this looks ugly. And when you run your radar range out and you see one of them big ass squalls, and you're like, shit. About the time, I mean, because we were running about a quarter of the way ahead, making 12 mile an hour. That's how, I mean, it was slick. We had 20 loads on the Doug Fisher, and and we weren't going to be taking any more than that. It was high water, and I wound up just for, I guess you'd say, just for moral support. I wound up I called down to the crew. I said, will you ask Captain Kenny to get up here with me? I think that's one of the 5 times maybe in my life that I've asked the other guy to get up. Anyway, he came up there, bare shirt with one leg and all, hopping up the stairs.
Yep.
And he goes, what's going on, Charlie? I said, I may not be able to see this bridge here in the next few minutes, and it's a mile down in front of us. I thought you might just want to be here for moral support and either say, man, this looks like shit, and go running downstairs, or pat me on the back or something. We got about a half mile above it, and I'm in the thick of this storm, and the mast pole on that boat, which was right behind the pilot house, it snapped. And we're talking a metal, I mean, you're where you raise your American flag.
Yeah.
Jesus. And man, when that happened, I guarantee you a little Hershey squirt came out, because it scared the piss out of me. On that same day, I was going down. Trout was waiting for me down at Grand Tower on the 2 whistles there at Wittenberg, actually. And when I passed him, he had a Mid-South tow. At that time, Mid-South was still in business. I can't tell you how many covers, but quite a few of those fiberglass covers were off. And on the other side of the river, man, they were like gone. I thought, that's some serious wind to pick up a goddamn fiberglass lid and carry it over there. But yeah, man, it snapped a damn mast pole with Captain Kenny on there. And I'll tell you what, man, those kind of conditions, I'd get down on the floor and just suck my thumb for a minute and get away from all the windows, because I was afraid of some damn window coming in and blowing in at me.
Wish you could talk to Shelby, my middle child. She's
yeah, how's she doing? Is she still in the naval?
Yep, last year at the academy, and then but then she she's gonna stay with it. So I think she's going to Taiwan for 6 weeks during the summer, and she's excited to travel around. I thought, she talks about it quite a bit, and just what it's like being there, and
is she in Annapolis?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, she'll be commissioned here pretty soon then. Wow, man. Hard to believe. Jesus.
She was on spring break this last time. She was I got to see her for my first week home, and then Blake had spring break the next week. So it was, she did a half marathon, a weekend of St. Patty's, but we had something to do every day, and it just, to see her, even on our off time, she keeps up with her training, but to see, she's jacked. I mean, she keeps up with the weight training, keeps up with the cardio, and she enjoys it, the structured life. I didn't think she would growing up. Sometimes our kids inherit, stuff but she likes the structured life. And my dad's proud, seeing another Reigns in uniform on the, but yeah, it'd been nice to get you guys together one day, and you would be able to answer questions. She's open-minded and enjoying it, self-starter, and all the kids turned out so different.
Yeah.
That
man, when I think about that now, I mean, even up until the time I resigned, there were some years there between, surgeries for hernias and some other things that I would fall off, but I never lifted weights in my life. And when I first got out of the Navy, and then even later on, even on the boats, when I was on the Keith Darling, man, 2 miles a day and 60 push-ups, 60 sit-ups, 8-count bodybuilders, man, I really enjoyed that because it was like therapeutic. Now I walk about half the length of this building and I'm falling over like a 98-year-old dude. But I guess she's planning on possibly going on shipboard duty, because I mean, there's enough co-ed ships now within the Navy that they'll be able to complement that. Is she excited?
Yeah. Nervous and excited. And then, that whole, every week someone's got to be prepared for war, got to be prepared for war, got to be.
Yeah.
And, so
Well, one
yeah,
thing's for sure is as good as a person can live on a naval ship, with her being an officer, she's going to have it pretty decent anyway. I mean, she's not going to be living in a berthing with 80 other people with 2 showers, 2 shitters, and 2 urinals. You know, she's going to have like, she might split a room with one other officer or something, you know, and split it like a little community head, but it's not going to be bad. She'll have a pretty good life going forward if she sticks with it.
So I like seeing I don't know, they're young adults right now, so I enjoy their stories about they're just now starting well, Blake hasn't yet, but their working world, and Nat has found a job that she likes, and she works for my place 2 or 3 times a week, and got the headset, she got 3 monitors, and she dispatches HVAC. She works for a couple of companies and putting out small fires, but here clacking on the keys, and from when she first started to now, it's just she knows the lingo, and like I don't have no idea. I told that guy he's supposed to be here at 0800 blah blah blah. He's there to fix this. He's there to fix that, and then remind me a little bit of bar dispatch, and how aggressive they get, and that's not what I said. I emailed blah 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 blah, and just it just
Pull
it
out
seems
that
like
red
it's a
whip and just
right. But that whole work, from you and I, that's weird. Just working from home. I think we
Yeah.
we missed out on that sweetness for just never getting out of your robe and just having you. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. But man, I can't lie, having 6 months off out of the year was pretty good.
It's almost too much now. That first 2 weeks, man, I'm pretty close with a lot of the neighbors. Like I said, I found trivia, but I find something to do. But man, I go full steam ahead on hanging out with the kids. But after 2 weeks, I'm like, man, I'm pretty relaxed. I've got don't date. I mean, if there's there's too many escort services in Dallas to not ready to date. Don't see the appeal, don't see the appeal in it. I think I go through 1 tank of gas the whole time home. That's about it. Just not much going on. Life's quiet at home, and I like that, and get good quality time with the kids and a handful of others. And want to go. Dad and sister in Florida. I go see them when I can, and it just there's every hobby is so expensive.
Hey, speaking of seeing people when you can, have you seen Deanna by any chance lately? Or Deanna, what was her name?
Oh, the one gal asked you not to bang and you did? Yeah.
Right, that's her.
Did you even hesitate?
No, there's no way, dude. I mean,
I'd known that gal since she was like, like a little sister. And
I remember you saying not to, but man, it's kind of hard when you lay down next to something and it starts touching on you. You're like, whoa, what are we doing here?
What gets me is how, I was like, Charlie, I don't want the details. And you just like you weren't hearing me and still gave me the details. No, I'm still good friends with her brother. And I haven't heard from him in a while, but I think all his sisters are married and happy, and
probably have a handful of kids or something by now.
Yeah. No, I hadn't thought about that, her, and then so you just brought it up. But
I hadn't thought about it until you just brought up about your sister. I mean, sorry, buddy. I don't know what to tell you.
You've been, from that guy that, it's I don't know, it's like as soon as someone told you not to mess with somebody, that one dude you were friends with, his sister and
Ken Parker, man. I mean, man, we were on that not snowmobile, listen to me. We were on that water ski, the jet ski. And man, we're going down from the loading dock at Grafton down to my mom and dad's house. And he starts giving me body blows on the damn jet ski. And I'm like, trying, next thing I know, both of us dump. Jet ski's going one direction, he's going another. And I'm thinking, well, I better go for the jet ski. That's $5,000 my parents spent on that son of a bitch. And if I don't get that, I can't save him anyway. But by the time I got to it, I thought, him. And yeah, hey, that's part of my integrity. I'm an honest guy. So when he said to me, hey, did you bang my little sister? Does a bear shit in the woods, buddy? I don't know what to tell you. And yeah.
Right. But no, I should think. Remember, that's the first gay bar I went to is the one you took me to. Wasn't the last. It was
I've been to quite a few of them. Yeah.
they're fun as hell. The whole energy of the place on the yeah.
Oonts, 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 oonts.
You were dressed as a woman that day.
Yeah. That was Halloween.
That was Halloween. I didn't mean to say it was yeah. Yeah, it's the first time I met your gran. You walked in and said, Gran, can I borrow one of your bras? She said, sure. I just thought that was like, it just wasn't weird for her at all for you to hear you say that.
Yeah.
You got called ugly so many times that night. Didn't phase you a bit. This is but no, that was fun.
I was the best looking broad. Especially knowing I was wearing a gray wig and I was what, 23 or 24 with a lipstick on, no facial hair. Yeah, I guess it would have been out of place with a gray wig on, especially knowing I had stuffed my grandma's bra like Dolly Parton. Because
yeah, you had gorgeous hair then too. Beautiful blonde hair.
Yeah.
I have several pictures of you with your hair.
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember that. I haven't had hair up here in quite a while.
Ever since I shaved it, you lost the bet to me.
Oh yeah, it's spades. Yeah, on the Joy Keller. Remember the potato on the ass and me trying to get that splinter out and Captain Dan walking out of his stateroom saying, Charlie, what's going on? And Roland walks out wearing these latex gloves, right? And I come out with my pants.
You were so loud.
Yeah, they came down around past my butt cheeks. And Captain Dan goes, never mind. We can talk about this later. And I said, okay. But yeah, I was yelping, man. That hurt.
I'd never seen anyone so unashamed as you at that. Well, even to this day. I mean, this is that's when the cook come to me, and that's before you and Linda were friends. She said, would you keep that deckhand away from me? He's a little weird. He asked me to look at his butt crack. And the chief come to me and said, hey, you had asked everyone to look at your butt crack. And I should have picked up the sign that you weren't just weird. There was something wrong. But it's the way you approached him. Hey, man, I got this irritated. However you were approaching it, you just had no shame.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like the other day I went to this dermatologist with the VA. And I told him what was shaking, right? And he goes, any other spots? I said, yeah, down in my groin, buddy. I said, and he's like, can I take a look at it? And I was already unbuttoning my pants. I'm like, you're the professional, not me. I'm going to show it to you. I have nothing to hide when it comes to that kind of shit.
Then to find out you're in the waiting room, this is Mr. Kulage. Wait till we get into the exam room.
Yeah. Hey, doc, you mind looking at this? Yeah, well, let's get out of the waiting room first, though, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah. I never seen anyone so comfortable telling a complete stranger about their hemorrhoids, and people would listen.
Yeah.
You have that charm. Yeah.
I'm pretty raw and honest usually. Yeah. Tim, what do you think of all that, buddy?
I think I'm gonna adopt this new approach to podcasting, and that I'm thoroughly enjoying. Let somebody else do all the work. Tell me about the first time y'all met. Where were y'all both in your careers at that point?
I was first mate. Charlie was deckhand. Was on the Joanne Keller, and I thought, what a spaz. I mean, who is this? Didn't like Charlie at first. It wasn't nothing about the work. It was just he was always spontaneously singing something instead of listening to what somebody was telling him. It was he was full of energy, bouncing around, and then like I said, there was the cook that said, hey, that deckhand's weird. Would you keep him away from me? Before anyone knew, just it wasn't Charlie being weird. I mean, that was the first trip. The second trip, deckhand punched Charlie. They had been drinking the night before. Both of them, they got their tongue pierced. I don't know. They was into it about something. And Charlie was just, he partied hard. And there wasn't like one exact moment. He just grew on me. And no, I know that. If Charlie said he would come visit and hang out, he meant it. It was never, you didn't have to wonder about that, but it was, I don't know, less than 6 months after I met him. He come to Cape, hung out, and just seen him on land. I don't know, never met anybody like him. He just, he at the time, remember thinking, he lived for the day, lived in a way that I'd not seen most people live. He was pretty open about stuff. So then I went to St. Louis to meet his family and hang out with him and party. And I know. And so friendship started right then. And we stayed. He went on to work on another boat and get his license. He got in the wheelhouse a little bit before I did, but that's what I remember about CK early on the, he was good at what he did. He didn't, kind of always knew that he was going to work up, get in the wheelhouse. And he talked about being in the Navy quite a bit. And let's see. I don't know, our lives are kind of parallel after that. Having kids, getting married, getting divorced, and or moving up wheelhouse and learning same things, or going through same stresses of when you first started out in the wheelhouse. I mean, those first 5 years kind of stressful, and so I don't know. It was nice. I think blanking off and on. Did we lose him?
No, he's still here. He's tinkering with something.
I'm just sharing a little something for the audience here.
Right.
Any resemblance? Oh, my brother from another mother.
I don't think you're sharing anymore.
Oh, F me.
There was an email that we were looking at for a second.
Oh, well, maybe it's not on here then. I thought it was. Damn it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. How about now?
I was going to ask you about what you thought about young Alec Baldwin back in the day.
I don't see it. Charlie's been saying that for years. I don't see it. No one else but him sees that. But yeah. I say no, but
Well, Charlie, what do you remember about first getting on that Joy Keller? Tell me some stories about that with this old guy.
Well, there's a good one. Oh, sweet Dave.
I can't believe you still have access to Facebook.
No, these are pictures that I've had on my computer for years.
I regret sending you anything. I do. This is
And
not how my kids feel.
Well, I can answer your question, Timmy. So, like David said, we were working for Memco Barge Line at the time, and of course AEP wound up buying them out and blah 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 blah. But I had been on a few vessels. I was deckhand, and I already had it in my mind that I was going to get my license. So I get a call. I had been on the Chris Parsonage. There were 3 of those boats: the Patricia Gale, the Chris Parsonage, and the Joy Keller. And the Joy Keller was getting ready to come out, and they called me up and asked me if I'd like to, crew the boat up. It was going to be brand new. I was like, man, that sounds good. I mean, I thought it was a privilege, to bring something out brand new out of the shipyard, So we get there, and for like the first, I want to say almost the first 2 weeks, we stayed in a hotel. And then for 12 hours a day, we would leave the hotel and go put shit on the boat. We had 3 tractor trailers full of everything that you can mention, that a boat would need to outfit it: furniture, supplies, and all that crap. But living in the hotel at first, I mean, we got to know one another a little bit by working at that point, but everything was pretty kosher. We all went back to our rooms at the end of the day. When we started living together, things were a different story at that point. Not necessarily in a bad way, just different. And while while we were taking supplies on one day, the deck hatch was open in the deck locker, and Casey had a handful of paper
That's
towels
right.
like this, and he couldn't see, and he stepped down, not knowing there was a drop off, and he opened his head right up, man. And right away, I took one of the paper towel rolls that he had, and I ripped the plastic off. I put it up against his forehead. Long
That's
story,
right. He ended up getting stitches. Yeah.
yeah. And the long story short was when all that transpired, and then he got to missing home. Casey did, because he had a girlfriend and he could work in the fleet there at Cairo. That was when I got promoted to second mate, watchman, whatever you want to call it. Where I was on the captain's watch, and Dave was on the pilot's watch. And quite honestly, at first, because we started splitting a room together at that point.
Oh, that's right. You scumbag. I remember that now.
Yeah. Yeah, I
You
took
were laying in
pictures
my
with my
bed,
camera
butt
and
naked.
everything.
Took pictures with my own camera. I didn't find out until I got the pictures developed.
I would lay in Dave's bed, spread eagle, baby, and just take a picture with his camera. Why not?
Right. And I thought the stuff you did to my pillow, I'm sort of looking at the pictures because that's when you had to get them developed. I thought, man, I put my face on that. What's wrong with you?
Man, that was fun. That was some fun shit. But yeah, um so, so so I got along with Dave pretty good, and I think that we started kind of finding our own way to gel with one another. But and I'm sure David will admit this now. I mean, this is years ago. We've all grown and changed in ways since, but at the time, Dave was he kind of had the attitude of, especially with the newer deckhands, because some of them were completely green right off the street. And if they try to suggest something, David would go out in the coupling, he'd say, if I needed to know that, I don't need to ask you. Okay. Like, you're beneath me, you piece of shit. You're nothing but a piece of little gum stuck on the bottom of my boot right now, type of attitude. And,
Sad but
and
true.
yeah. And so one day, trying to put all the joking aside, a couple of the deckhands, we had 4 deckhands and 2 mates on that boat. The deckhands came to me because they said, Charlie, you seem to be more approachable than David. They said, we want to let you know that if David keeps treating us the way that he is, he says, we're either going to jump boat or we're going to jump him. And I thought, oh boy. And so I simmered them down a little and just said, man, I said, Dave means well. He's done this for a while. He doesn't want to see you guys hurt. It's just his communication skills. Let me talk to him. And so I talked to Dave about it and just told him, I said, man, the guys will do anything for you. They'll bend over backwards, but if you keep talking to them like dirt, I got a feeling it might knock your block off with a cheater pipe one of these days. And I think that maybe it resonated a little because I tried not to get too serious, even like now. I mean, I get serious about the things that I need, that I believe need a certain level of sincerity with, but most things I try to take lightly. And I think on that day, that might have been one of the first times that Dave and I had a sincere interaction, that I mentioned that. And he said, man, thanks for telling me, and blah, blah, blah. And so,
Yep.
that kind of turned over leaf, but it wasn't long from then. And Dave mentioned it earlier, Tim, that I was with this gal, and I was working on the process of the paperwork with the Coast Guard to get my license. But I was in love, and for like the first time, I guess, in my life, whatever you want to call it. But she broke my heart, and I got off the boat. I jumped boat at Vicksburg, Mississippi. And when I did that, I wound up going back home, seeing that I felt like I had nothing. And I thought, well, screw it. And I loaded all my shit up in my little Nissan and drove down to Memphis and went to Jim Davis's school. And I stayed down there for about 4 weeks or so. But I called and quit from Memco at that point. So we didn't work together. But then once I got my license, I was petering around on the harbor tugs. The Joey Keller came in and we worked him a couple times. And at nighttime, Dave always wore the headlamp. I always wore like a flashlight at the time on my shoulder that I could tell just as soon as they were walking towards the head of the tow that it was Dave on watch. And it was nighttime. And he's just like looking up at the pilot house like, fuck you. Even though you got your license, I'm still down here, bitch, But yeah, so our decking career together didn't really last that long. Maybe I'm guessing half a year. And then I quit. But we still remained friends. I still tried to hook up with Dave whenever I could. And
Yep.
when I started running the Gulf Coast after 3 years, I started running the upper, is when Dave at that point was like a full-fledged pilot / steersman, whatever, on different rivers. But I think he was running like the Illinois and that section of the lower part of the upper at that point, that he was on the Mary Shield. The Mary Shield is a St. Louis boat, I think, with Ozzy, maybe. I can't remember. Anyway, the Mary Shield was the name of the boat. And I heard him in radio range one night. I'm like, oh, big old Dave swinging the big stick. And because once you get down out of the upper far enough, you get close enough geographically to the mouth of the Illinois that you can communicate back and forth in like a 20, 30 mile range if you put on high power. And I was like, oh man, my main shit stain, Yeah. So yeah, but that was our first interactions. And I would have been 22 because I got my license when I was 22 and just made 23 is when I got my license. So yeah, but yeah, we've been Jack and Jaws since. And we've both worked at pretty much the same outfits off and on. David's kind of spent most of his time with one ticket at one place, except for buyouts. A couple times I left wherever I was, but it was usually to better myself, to go to, say, like a different job or a different river. And then at one point I did a full-time trip pilot thing for about 4 years that, ironically enough, I tripped on David's boat.
Yep.
Wait, didn't I? Yeah.
You did.
On the it was a St. Louis boat. Anyway, but that and the Donna Rushing, David was captain on, that I went back to trip as a trip pilot for ACBL. Yeah. And then I finished out my time at ACBL as pilot on the Harold B. Dodd with Captain Brian Hamilton. He's the last person I worked with for my last year and a half steady. Yeah. So what's that been now? Let's see. It's 27 years. That's back when Moby Dick was a minnow, buddy.
Been that long. Yeah.
Where'd we go from here now?
I've been reflecting a lot on some of these stories I don't remember till Charlie starts telling them. And yeah, home life and river life, I don't know, perspective change over the years, hopefully hopefully I hope everyone has some kind of reflection. And but yeah, angry back then, angry at the world. Shane, CK, do you remember Shane Rughead? He decked with us.
Oh yeah, became an EMT, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Shane and I hung out. Shane, it's like every time I hung out with Shane, we got a
Shane Shepherd.
Yep, we'd end up fist fighting somebody, and it just, I don't know, it kind of brought out that side in me. Shane would start a fight with somebody, I'd be right there to help throw down on Yeah, I look back and I'm glad I grew out of that, and being a dad helped out a lot with that. But you don't realize, what else that does to other people. And so yeah, I'm glad I don't live that way anymore. But it's being friends with you over the years has helped. There's other ways to enjoy life, or to get your point across to other people. And
Yeah, right. Yeah.
it it doesn't save you from making mistakes or marrying, a two-bit hua. Um, it, and it's interesting how people with different personalities can also become friends, or it's still common their shared stress, whether the same work stress or same home. It just reminds me like everyone's going through it. Doesn't matter the social status or kind of money that they make and whatnot. Everybody's got their own thing they're going through, whether you can see it or not. But yeah, I could have not trained steersmen if I didn't. Training somebody out here is a bit different, and it's pretty personal, and it's pretty rewarding watching them. I've been 4 steersmen now, and one of them's Capt on the Markanoy, the old Miss KD, and it's
Oh,
just
really? Oh, that's what they named it, is the Mark Hanoi?
yep.
Nice.
So yeah, watching somebody, until you get out of your own way on it, it's just I don't know. I enjoy passing on the information and teaching. Susan is my pilot on here right now. Just watching her
Well,
run
Susan
behind
Gibson.
islands. Yep.
Yep, she was a
You remember-
deckhand on the Keith Darling when I was pilot on there.
She reminds me a lot about you on work ethic, meticulous. She's an ex-prison guard, and very professional, very thorough. And when she does a job briefing, she just doesn't forget anything because she got it written down. She's got it. But I love how she still keeps up the paper chart, and you don't see that these days. She whips out the old paper chart, and she keeps up with the digital and the paper one on but I don't have to explain her to her about she keeps pushing herself, make the bridge a little smoother, hustle this slack a little bit better. So that's all, when I was on deck, I never took the time to, like, I want people to learn stuff, but I really didn't teach. Teaching out of fear versus, teaching out of being calm, there's a big difference. So I like it a whole lot better this way. If I could go back and redo it, then it's communicating with the deck crew now from the pilot house. I mean, it's so many people deserve to have a job, and the company requires one set of specifics, and every company, I guess, is like this. On deck, I kind of only vibe with people that had pride. You had pride, so did Shane, so did other people. Anyone else, I didn't really give them a second look. They deserved for me to explain things anyway, but I really didn't like explaining myself to anyone that didn't have pride or wouldn't excel, and that was wrong. If I could go back and redo that everyone deserved. People pick up things at their own pace, but everyone deserved equal treatment. Not just the superstars, the people that really wanted to learn.
Right.
So
yeah, she was from, Susan, if I remember right, Wayne County, Tennessee. And yeah, man, a cool chick. And her dad was career military, and he passed away of a heart attack, kind of somewhat unexpectedly, in Susan's life. And I remember going on a float trip on a river on the Buffalo River that goes right through her county, and she knew the name of the place I went to and all that. That's when I went with Charlie Cobb, and Charlie Cobb and I got liquored up on moonshine. He jumped from that tree into the creek
and messed up his foot,
messed up his ankle. He couldn't come to work for 6 months. And Jimmy Brown called me and said, "Admiral?" I said, "Yes, sir." He goes,
Jimmy Brown.
He says, "Charlie, I like you a whole lot, but I got one set of orders for you right now. Don't you ever play in the sandbox with Charlie Cobb again. I'm afraid that you might ruin that fella."
Did you know how much trouble you almost got in that meeting where Charlie Cobb brought his wife and his son? It was at
No.
the last meeting we were at, and you put your arm around his son, who I think he was 17 at the time, and you said, "You come out with me, I'm going to find you this toothless German whore that I know." And a lot of people thought that you were joking. I knew that you were serious. You really would find him a toothless German whore. And his mom comes swooping in out of nowhere, and I thought, yeah, Charlie's going to get flogged finally for saying something. No, but you did. You put your arm around him, and because nobody was talking about whores, but you just
Well, and not to mention Charlie and Jackie Cobb, his wife Jackie,
right.
they're pretty reserved and conservative
Yes.
folks, and they go to church and all that. I was just trying to let the lad know that there were some other things out there in life that are to be, had. That's all. Just trying to expose
Yeah.
him. Dylan is his name, Dylan. Yeah, and I think he came out to work for ADM for Art Co. I don't know if he's still with him or not, but that's what he had done. His uncle, Jackie's brother, is he's retired now, but I know you would know him, Dave. Anyway, he was an Art Co captain for years. I forget his goddamn name. It'll come to me. But anyway, that's how Charlie Cobb's brother-in-law being with Artco, and Charlie started off with Mid-South Towing. That's how those two families kind of, because Jackie and her brother, the Artco pilot, they're from like Arkansas, and Charlie was born and raised in Clifton, Tennessee, and I wondered how they had met, but yeah, they got a good family, 2 kids, and Mary Grace
Yep.
and Dylan. They got like the picture perfect kind of Baptist Southern house, with that hospitality. But yeah, sometimes I was maybe a little too risque, I think, for their family, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I remember on that.
When
I remember
you're
on that float trip that on the same one that Charlie shattered his ankle in. My mom and I, right before that happened, she had been hitting on that damn White Lightning liquor all morning. She loved that shit, and she had her own jar she was swilling on all day long. And her and I were in the same canoe, and man, we dumped. And she was just sitting there in the middle of the creek, just laughing her ass off with this jug of moonshine. I'm like, Mom, I said, our canoe's going down the creek here, you know. But I'll never forget that, man. It was a good time. Charlie was small, Lindsay was small. Lindsay had her own kayak. Dylan had his own kayak. Yeah, man. I used to like to break bread with guys off the boat because you spend so much time on the boats together. Sometimes, on your days off, you're like, shit, man. It's not like I'm punching the clock, and you make family out there. Family. I mean, you're with them some bitches 6 months out of the year, just the same as you are with your own. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's just a small handful of people that are always welcome at my home, and I've been to theirs. Jason Lucas, Aaron Baggett, you, and just a few others that have been to their houses. They've been to mine.
Manchester, Ohio.
Yep.
That's where Jason Lucas lives.
I like Jason. I've been friends a long time. Same with Lurch.
Yeah.
Where we started at Memco. There was somebody at Chris. What's his? Forget his last name. You work with him also. It was Capt. Chris. Been Capt a long time, but we've worked around each other for almost 30 years, and I just met him a few months ago. I mean,
Right.
this industry's like that. You'll talk to somebody and never see them for decades.
Right. Well, kind of like with Tim's situation, being in the office, and I'm sure you talk to guys on the boats that you may never see their face, so to speak. I mean, yeah, it's one of them things. It's like, and then sometimes when I did finally meet someone after like 10, 15 years and you see them, I'm like, dude, the voice
Matt
meets
Lagarde,
nothing like the person.
Tim, you did you had Matt Lagarde speak on there. And man,
Sure
I've seen so many emails from Matt, but just hearing him speak, I'm like, man, which Matt's a cool dude, but it's like, well, you finally get to put a face and a voice to the name here. But yeah, his name come up a bunch.
The first time I ever met Matt Lagarde, we wound up closing down one of them. hibachi style restaurants wearing a gi, one of them Korean gis. By the end of the night, I was up on the bar, man, dancing my ass off with he and I and someone, but he was still a pilot on the boats back then. Matt was, yeah, man, we were throwing down. And then he became like the
Right.
VP of something down to golf. And I was like, wow, this guy's done moved into the office now. He's no longer one of us.
Good going, man. Shauna sent me. She still got video of it doesn't have the full clip, but you and I karaoke and Baby Got Back.
Oh yeah. Oh
That was
right.
another
Yeah, right here in Westport Plaza
Yeah.
in St. Louis. Yeah.
You
Maryland
started
Heights.
twerking, and I couldn't hold my composure anymore. You were twerking before it was a thing. It was
That's right. The
That's
Chuck
right.
Man originated that. Yeah.
right. That was also we went out for sushi, and I think the hostess was slacking on her job. You got up and you just started seating people. I thought for sure we are going to get kicked out, and that's once again that's part of your charm. It's,
Doing what I can to help others.
right.
Hey, we're a little short staffed tonight, even though I'm not employed here. My name's Charlie. Would you like to come
Yep.
this way? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've always been that way, huh?
Always.
Yeah.
We were at, and during 9/11, we were at Caprock Cafe in Lubbock, Texas. I just remember because, you know, we were there for like 3 or 4 days straight, but that's where we're at when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David was the Culligan man delivering the 5-gallon jugs of water to people's houses.
I regret telling you so many things. You never, I should have never wore those shorts in front of you.
He'd come home from work with the Culligan truck and his
on my many second jobs on the I got called water boy so many times, and not the fun way. My mama said, man, I hate this job. It's just temporary. We was about to have our first kid, and I'm working 2 jobs. And yeah, instead of getting a pat on the back, I got every time Charlie saw me, he couldn't stop laughing.
Oh, and man, and I remember camping on your couch every day while you were at work and Aaron was gone, and I started watching The Sopranos for the first time. You had the whole set.
That's right.
And I was like, oh man, I mean, on VHS still, of course, at that point in time, but I had never seen it, man. And so in the afternoons, I was loving it. And then we'd go drinking together as soon as Dave got off work. Yeah, with Aunt Dave.
You brought some gal, some, I don't know, waitress or something. I forgot what crappy place we were staying at. Wait, no, it was Aaron's her grandmother had passed away, and this is how there was a bunch of stuff in boxes nobody had gotten rid of yet, and we were all staying there, and you were so loud with your sexcapades with that little gal, and I never heard anyone play Naughty Sheriff or Naughty Sailor in the sheriff, whatever.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
that's not the point. Was the next morning we're having coffee, and I was like, Charlie, you were a little loud last night. It got weird. There's no apology. There was, oh yeah. Then you start telling me the games, but I'm like, I'm not. I know the games you're playing. We all heard. And then you start telling me you found random pills somewhere and just started taking them just for, and like, turns out they were muscle relaxers.
Yeah, and it was, and they were pain pills
pieced it
because
you had a
her
problem. You would find random pills and just take them.
Well, you know, and when I got to looking through the medicine cabinet, knowing that you guys were at her grandma's and her grandma just passed, I saw these pain pills too for like cancer patients. I was like, man, I need to get me a couple of those. So I wound up cleaning out all the old meds, man. I wanted to make sure they didn't go to waste. And that little girl, I say little because she was very, very petite. I flew her out to San Diego to see my buddy Dave and meet him one time. And I'll never forget going shopping with her because she was such a petite thing. I got this little sheriff's hat that I bought for her to wear with nothing else. And I said, you're going to wear this tonight, baby. I'm going to be your prisoner. You know what I'm saying?
It's at least 10 times you would call me on the, so when I was on the back watch, and you would think that you hung up the phone. And why you called me when you got off the boat and was in some hotel with some random, I don't know. Because I would be screaming, Charlie, I don't want to hear this. Hang up the phone. And it was, oh, girl, let me suck on them toes. Or it was usually something about feet or ass. And
Well, and especially with back then, before we even had cell phones, you could call from a hotel room and just leave the receiver there. But I finally got a cell phone, and it was so easy just to lay it to the side once I started getting me a piece of action that sometimes I would forget to hit end.
oh, that's right, you sorry sack. When social media became a thing, and especially on Facebook, because my kids found this. You ass munch. When Facebook was first getting started, you and I had been texting slams back to each other all day or something. You posted something on Facebook, and it was like a gay dating profile.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
said
I
my
went to
name is
bed.
Dave, and
I
I'm
was
a
never so popular. I went to bed when I woke up. My phone was blowing up. I thought, all right, I said, someone loves me. No, it was you and a whole army of people that already roasted the shit out of me. My kids went back and just saw that they went deep diving on this. They said, dang, Charlie really roasted you here. I said, yeah, I remember that day. That was, I don't know what I was saying, but you and I were going at it pretty hard. And
well,
you,
that picture that I just showed
yeah,
earlier,
yes,
it was with that picture, and I posted it saying, "Hi, my name is David, and I'm not sure of my sign, but I think it's Capricorn. I like long walks in the park,
yes.
sipping on Bacardi breezers, laying in my mankini with a fine hot man."
It was articulate and detailed. That was I was a slow
I
learner
was
on
just trying to
messing.
hook you up with a date, buddy.
It was yeah.
I almost wonder nowadays, like and I say kids, I mean, that makes me sound old, but with this generation that's coming up that's driving now and they're
We are
20,
old.
25, that, man, I wonder how they can even do like prank calls anymore. I used to love prank calling people, get on the phone and just pick up the yellow or the white pages back when it was an actual magazine and find the nearest like business or whatever family ran place, like for refrigerators, for example, and say, "Hey, is your refrigerator running? Well, you better go catch it." Shit like that, or the norm, like, yeah, yeah, my name is Mr. Hoff, first name Jack. Is your daughter around? Shit like that. I wonder what they do now for being able to prank folks with cell phones. I don't know.
I think it's a
I
lost
don't,
art.
right. I think there's too many ways to make fun of somebody with on social media or with memes.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of fell off after because I'm not on any social media. I'm not on Face Crack, Shitter, Twitter, TikTok, or none of that crap.
Same, but well, I have enough kids to where they and speaking of kids on the when little Charlie come to see me on I mean, he is a perfect blend of you and Stacy, but he didn't pick up on, thankfully, and weird is not the right word, but he is not as intense about members of the opposite sex as what you and Stacy are. Not
Right.
thankfully, not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
know,
don't know
man.
how that turned out. I always wondered, but I guess he and I got talking about your mom, your mom, and he learned early about the guilt tactics your mom would use. And he was telling me, he had me rolling about when your mom started, throwing the hints around about needing some money and that, he would just, hey, Gran, what's that? As soon as she turned it back, boom, he was out the door. No messing around, no waiting to hear the end of it. Guilt's not working on me. Boom, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad. I'm kind of glad. I'm not glad that, but I mean, our past is our past and we learn from
yeah,
it. I'm glad that my mom, in a way, did that to me because that's something that I've made it a point that I don't do to Charlie. I don't nickel and dime
right,
Charlie to death. I don't say, "Hey, will you stop here and grab this?" I mean, Charlie's got his own life to live, man. I mean, he's got his own path that he's making, and he doesn't owe me anything. You know, he's
right.
trying to create his own life. And my mom always felt like that even though I was grown, paying my own bills, doing my own thing, that I was still like expected or obligated to spend as much time with her as I had when I was a lad. And that's just not the case, man.
No, he's pretty he's a good kid. I enjoyed hanging out with him.
Yep. Man, and he's I mean, I can claim him. He's not the mailman's for sure, but his beard is all red
Right.
these days. And he's a tall son bitch because man, when he came I was inpatient for 9 weeks and he came there, he and his wife every Saturday, except for there was I think once when the snow and ice was too bad. Long story short though, he'd come in through those doors, man, and I'd just give him a big old hug and I'd be like, "Hey buddy, how you doing?" Because he's so much taller than me now, you know. Um, but I tell you something else that was really cool. When I was inpatient, the people that I was in there with, they had gotten to know me, of course, and I got to know them. But I mentioned my son. Well, he was getting ready to come visit me, and I knew his birthday was happening soon. And I made him a handwritten card and I sent it around the cafeteria for everyone to sign. But what he didn't know, you know, was that I had in my room, it's kind of like a commissary in prison. You can buy a little something from the store in rehab. That I got him a little cup of those chicken ramen noodles, the kind that you put hot water in. And I put that in a gift bag and gave that to him. And we all sang him happy birthday in the cafeteria. There was like 80 people in there with the cooking staff and everyone. It's pretty cool, man. I was really glad to do that for him. And he stood up there like a champ, you know. And that was really neat, man. Being able to do that on his birthday with him.
Awesome.
Yeah, he and his wife are, you know, my only, I guess you'd say, real support, and his mom, of course. So I don't have many people here in this area for support, but it's a strong one that I have. So even though it's few, it's pretty strong. So I'm grateful for Charlie and his wife Najla and for Stacy. Stacy has been nothing but proud of me and encouraging. She, like I say, we've met up a couple times. She bought me a recovery stone, is what it's called. Um, and yeah, man, she's really been supportive with Charlie and his wife. So even though it's a small group and it's not including my other family, it's a strong one because there's some
Awesome.
others.
I didn't we didn't talk about Stacy in a while, and I'm glad that she still is. Seriously,
Yeah.
that's a win for well, you were never, well, I don't know, there was a little bitterness first, but now you've never not really been bitter about it. That shows a little
No,
Charlie also on yeah, he
I guess that there was a couple of years where I kind of, you know, I was somewhat bitter, but then what I realized was I thought, man, it's hard. It's a lot of work to carry around resentment for someone on your shoulders. I mean, it exhausts you, you know, it drains you that
but it does.
I couldn't carry that. And I just told her one day that well, you know what, I don't need to speak anymore on that because Charlie may watch this and that's his mother. So but yeah, she's been very supportive, man, very supportive. And I'm glad that I have them three, Stacy and Charlie and Najla.
Well, you do have a bit of a developing support system of peers now. So that's
Oh,
been
I do, yeah.
very, very promising.
Yeah, and I at the picnic today for some folks in recovery, I found a guy that I know that you'd really be interested in, Tim. He's a I'll let him tell his story when he gets on here with you if he ever does, but he's a good guy. His name's Mike, and he's for former SWAT and kind of a lot of things that blended in with me in the maritime industry as to why I felt like I couldn't come forward and why a lot of guys maybe listening to this that might have addiction issues are afraid to come forward because they have, you know, they're maybe young, they got a couple kids that are young and their job is what's keeping that together, that they're afraid to get help that Mike experienced with his law enforcement career that I'll let him tell you, but he's a good one. And then I also mentioned, of course, my housemate, Steven. And so, yeah, man, if there's any way, I guess you'd say, to spread awareness of it, I think that the river industry specifically is where it might be needed because I can understand where a lot of guys don't want to come forward. If the highest level of care that you can get is an IOP to still retain your license and work on it, that sucks. I mean, I know now because of the treatments I've been through, that sucks to know that a guy can't really go, or gal can't really go get help professionally for long-term sobriety unless they're willing to give up their job and license pretty much. I think that sucks, man. And I think that that should change because airline pilots, if they come forward and say, hey, man, I got a problem with booze or drugs, they're able to go into inpatient treatment, long-term recovery treatment, and still keep their license and work on it. You can't do that if you work on the vessels. You don't fit the criteria anymore. And that sucks. What time
David,
is it,
What's the
ladies? David, you're on watch, obviously, navigating in the dark, but what time is it, fellas?
I'm on Central Time, same as you, bud.
it's about 8:45.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm only asking because I have a couple housemates that have kind of situated or rearranged a few things for me to do this evening. So I just don't want to take advantage of that because I'm in someone
and
else's room, you know.
what is what's what's the next year for you look like, Charlie? What's the hope for the next year?
If things go the way that I want them to in the next year, first and foremost, is I'll still be in recovery and not an active addiction. B would be to have my place sold, and I'll just leave that at that for now. But the third thing would be is to have a service animal. I've been approved for one for my psychiatric issues, but right now, since I'm not physically able to take care of an animal, I'm not getting the animal yet because that wouldn't be fair to the animal or for me to have to try to, walk it and do the things that it would need because I'm not in physical condition to do that right at the moment. So that's what the next year would look like for me, is to be sober, have my house sold, and have me a support animal. Maybe a golden retriever is what I'm looking at for psychiatric reasons.
Okay.
How about you? You going to retire anytime soon?
No, I'm all right with work until I die, but I wouldn't mind going semi-retirement. Rent out my place, buy something else for investment. I keep in the back of my mind on the, what if Charlie was to come live with me? And so I like always keeping a room there for you. Now that the kids are grown, I don't know, may not have to live in Texas anymore. They're all kind of scattering. Kind of depends on where they end up. But if there was a world where we live closer, or I can keep a better eye on you, that'd be nice. But
Yeah.
renting out the place, there's a traveling nurses. I can rent out my place furnished. There's a thing for traveling nurses. I wouldn't mind doing that. And I'm tired of being there with HOA. I mean, I like my small place, but I wouldn't mind something with a yard. Or I need another project. I didn't turn. I need something, but life's just a little not relaxed. But I don't know. I need something else.
Yeah.
And
Well, man, I'm sure that whatever it is, if you just keep pushing forward, I'm finding anyway, as of right now, that some things just start falling together when you least expect it. That's what's happening for me at this moment. Because sometimes I can't lie, man, my days are miserable at times. But what I have to do is just realize that my body's still trying to heal. So is my mind. And I just got to keep going forward, that as long as I keep doing what I'm doing, I'll stay clean. Because as long as I'm in a room of recovery, speaking to a group or listening to someone else, I know I'm not using for that time period. That's what's important for me right now, because if I start using again, the VA will go back to treat me like shit. I know they will. And I got to get this medical care, you know.
how much support has Tim been here?
Quite a bit, because
Right.
especially during my active addiction, my sister even pointed out one day, I think we were on, I don't know, 2 or 3 episodes in, but she said, I think this might be good for you, Bubby. She goes, it's, and I said, yeah, it's therapeutic because I'm here all day by myself, 24/7. And of course, that was my own fault. I mean, I could have left anytime I wanted, but my anxiety was too high. And it's been therapeutic for me to be able to share raw, honestly, and just, I guess you'd say, unfiltered, because other, I guess you'd say, people or formats, platforms of doing that wouldn't be kind about it, you know? And I do think that I don't think I have a tremendous story to tell, but what I do think is if I can help one person in addiction that's concerned about losing their job or something, then I'll feel like that maybe me flapping my gums is worth it for a little bit to, yeah, because I got to tell you, man,
old friend, you have to know by now. You are a gifted storyteller.
it's so funny you say that because my therapist in inpatient told me that. His name's Nick, great guy, young fella, but he's got a lot of good insight. And when I finished telling my story in inpatient, which they call your story like your timeline or whatever, and he said, man, he goes, you have a natural gift of storytelling. And I said, well, I thank you. But I had really hadn't heard that often. But now that I hear it more often, I think, well, if enough people are telling me that, maybe it's true. Because other people, I think, can see things in other people that you can't see yourself when you're in yourself. You get tunnel vision and you don't realize some of those things. And so maybe it's the truth. Maybe I should just keep pursuing because let's face it, I can't get back out on the boats. I won't be doing a road crew or roofing anytime soon either. That
I
if I
think
can,
you having a blog or a podcast of your own, or you just YouTube videos, or you just pick a topic, reaction videos, watch old movies, whatnot, give your reaction. I could see where people would tune in for your particular brand of wisdom and humor.
yeah, well, and something up until maybe then is what I'd like to do in the state of Missouri. I think it's 9 months, but it could be 12. I'm not positive that I can do an online thing through mo.gov and get a certificate called peer specialist to where I can go out and speak. And, I don't think the money's much. It might be 10, $15 an hour, but something to put a little scratch in my pocket and just stay in the rooms of recovery for now until I get stronger in my own recovery. Because for right now, Dave, Tim, I ain't going nowhere by myself. I will in the rooms of recovery, but I ain't going to no stores, no gas stations, none of that yet, because I know it's just too early for me. And I don't drive by my dope man's anymore either, because I did one time. I drove by his area and I thought, oh, all I'd have to do is just slow down, make a right-hand turn and go down one block. And that's scared the shit out of me. And so now I don't go that route anymore to go to outpatient. I go out of my way a different way because I don't want to go down that particular road, literally, So I'm pretty early in my recovery still.
Sure glad to see you on that road, man. It was a rough year. We were 13 and a half hours published, but we went there.
Yeah.
There were times, yeah, there were times. I think some of us were waiting to hear, Charlie, that you had passed.
Oh yeah, that's what Timmy was saying when we did our podcast a couple of weeks ago about a gal that I won't say her name, but Tim said that she contacted Tim because she was typing in my name looking for an obituary. I thought, wow, I didn't really expect people expecting me to be dead, but I'll tell you one thing, give me one more year and I can do this to my folks because both of them said I wouldn't live until I'm 50. So if I can make another 12 months, at least 12 months in a day, and at least be like, yeah, showed you some bitches, didn't I?
Well, let's make sure we do this in the next 12 months, man. Let's keep in touch. I kind of like what's happened here tonight. It's a new path for the podcast, and I'm glad y'all are both playing along with me here.
Thank you,
Setting us
man.
up, Tim.
Yeah, man. And I've always said this, but I'll say it again. I'm grateful for you helping me and for your support throughout this, because not just as a podcaster, but as a friend, because there were times that you reached out to me when I was in some pretty dark places, man. And I wouldn't even remember. We didn't even get on video a couple times. I wasn't there. I was waiting to die. And I was like, fuck, I ain't got my guns anymore. I mean, I don't like pain. So I thought, I just got to wait to die because I couldn't do enough drugs to kill me. I'm sure if I would have changed my drug of choice, I could have. But with my particular drug of choice, I mean, you're going to do irreversible damage to the cardiovascular system for sure. But the idea of dying from it, overdosing, usually doesn't happen. With heroin or fentanyl, it does pretty easy. But yeah. So thank you, Tim. And Dave, thanks for meeting me on here, dude. I'm so glad to finally see you for the
Good seeing you,
first
brother.
time in a while.
How long had it been?
What's that?
Well, the last time I saw David, he came by my joint,
Yep.
and because I had been to his house in October of 2020, that it was the next spring that David got off the boat or something, or excuse me, and got off a flight or something there in St. Louis and
Yep.
swung by for like an hour. So that would have been 2021, 4 years ago, close to this time, 4 years ago.
Well, again, guys, I'm glad we could do this, and I do hope to do it again. There's probably a handful of guests we can match up with old Charlie and talk about every minute of every year he's ever lived.
Well, we don't want to bore people to death, Tim.
We're coming up on 20 hours, brother. If they're bored, I mean, that's their problem.
Yeah. Hey, man. Yeah, I'll see you guys later, buddy. David, I know you're probably ready to be able to look at the radar without being blinded and shit.
I see it just fine, but I do have to check, see where if I'm going to get a spot for fuel here.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
Take care, Holmes. Hey, Tim, thanks a lot, buddy. I'll be in touch with you and sending you information for these others too.
Yes, sir. Thanks very much.
Again for setting this up, Tim.
No problem at all. Talk to y'all soon.
Later.
This has been a production of Where You At Studios, LLC.